Welcome, everybody. Midlife Gaming Podcast. Today, it's episode 15. Today, in the news, we're going to go ahead and cover, let's see, what are we covering? I'd already forgot. Everyone wants to see, everyone wants to see the tall lady. Cost of free games. Free to play out in the Heartland. And is it illegal to sell your own stuff? Steve, as always, is here with us. Let's see here. Yep. And then this is this guy, Archie. Welcome, everybody, for tagging along with us. Today,
Did you forget your own name?
I did, a little bit, yeah. It's been a heck of a week. But we have some viewer questions as well. Some new viewers asked us some questions about our feelings on some things, and we're going to ask them a little bit later today. So stick around, everybody. We got the first story up right now, which is Resident Evil Village broke 100,000 concurrent players on PC, setting a series record. Have you seen any gameplay for this yet, Steve?
I have, but I was being very intentional about not looking at too many gameplay streams. I've looked up one or two reviews just to kind of see what I really was interested in. Was mostly to see what the length of the game was and how the story content was, but haven't watched that much gameplay, so I kind of know what to expect based off the reviews I've heard. But yeah, I've been able to keep myself away from a lot of spoilers.
I've intentionally been watching people online play it, and it's definitely one of the scarier ones. I thought that the first couple of scenes in the last one were pretty intense. This one does feel like a different level. You can tell that they really put their thought into this one. I don't want to spoil anything for you because I know you're gonna play it. I know for a fact I'm not gonna play it. It's not because it's not good. It's just $60 for a game that I'm just gonna be scared of the entire time. I'm good.
Now, when you say that, do you mean you're just not going to play it at launch, or you're not going to play it at all? Like, you'll play it when it comes to $30, $20, something like that, maybe, or
yeah, maybe
you'll just never get around to it.
I'll probably play it when it gets on sale. Like, I haven't played 7 myself personally either. I watched that one completely online. So that one is another one that I do want to get around. I honestly, and we were talking about this in our text chat with Tom, who's in the chat now, about how I wanted to play the VR version of the game, but I didn't want to buy all the gear for my PS4 just to play that one experience. I was like, I gotta have the headset for my PC. It's coming to PC, so obviously the VR mode will too, and it's not happening. There's some shoddy, plugins that you can use for it to kind of make it work. But from everything that I've seen, it's not worth it. It's not the same. Yeah. It's not the same thing that you get on the PS4's PSVR experience with that game. So maybe, hopefully, one day they'll let it go, and they'll take that exclusivity out and just port it to normal PC. But they'll probably charge again for it. That's probably the other side of that coin. This is a pretty big record for a game that just recently came out. It had, I believe, a little over 600,000 people watching it on Twitch, like across all the different streamers and everything. Had a little over 600,000 viewers on launch day. So that's a great thing. What I'm a little bit confused about is setting series record. I guess it does make sense because it is only 7, and then the remakes are the only ones on PC right now.
What I really think it is, though, is that I don't think it comes down to the quality or the content of the game. Well, I guess you could say the content, but I really think it comes down just to the hype around, the tall lady, to be completely honest, because
they memed her pretty well.
Yeah, from the podcast I listened to and things, like, without getting too much gameplay, like, really, like, none of it has been like overwhelmingly positive, like, as in terms of comparison to 7. It's all been good. Like, all the feedback I've heard has been good. Like, oh yeah, it's a good game. Heard a lot of the same people question what we have, which is like, but is it $60 good? But a lot of them have said that 7 was actually, that they enjoyed 7 more. So I really think this one, it's not the strength of word of mouth. It really is just this whole hype around, this what's her name, Lady
Dimitrescu. Yeah, if that's Lady even how it's pronounced.
Yeah, so that's how much I've looked into it. Like I saw one trailer with her, I saw everybody going crazy about it online, and I put my blinders on and said, "I'll
No
come back
more.
to this when I'm ready to play it." Yeah, because it just will, and it turns to one of those things where it gets so overwhelmingly noisy that you start to just build a bias against it because you want people to shut up talking about it. So
Right.
I don't want to go into it with that. I'm going to try my best to not look into it, not get whelped up in the hype, not get spoiled, and hopefully maybe a couple months down the line I'll be able to actually play it. But I'm not paying $60 for it just because I heard it was like 10 to 12 hours, and that's not enough for me. And I know that these games usually have the replay value and oh, okay, you go back through and you try to beat your time, or hey, you try to take this path this time or something like that, but not for me.
Yeah, I don't know how varying the path could be on this one. Just kind of like from the little bit that I've seen already from the gameplay, I don't know how much it could vary for you to want to even take it another path. And Tom is already acting up in chat. I appreciate it. Talking
And
about
Tom is one of those
cosplayer.
100,000 concurrent players.
Oh yeah,
And what is his comment? He has no comment about the game. Nah, I love seeing the sexy cosplayers dressing up like her. Oh man. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
yeah, always adding. I love it.
It's good when you get the proof right there in the pudding. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that is.
yeah, good for them though. This is cool. I'm surprised really though by the. I won't say I'm surprised by the number. I'm just kind of surprised that it's this much overwhelmingly above the other. I mean, it's like 2 to 3 times bigger than Resident Evil 2 and 3, which were those remakes that came out that were really like received well. So I'm just surprised. But hey, it shows that marketing works. So good for those
Yeah,
guys.
marketing did work, and they've definitely been changing up their marketing games over there, because I've never once seen a puppet, like plushy puppet commercial for one of their video games until this one, which is a very weird decision, but I guess it worked. It got people talking again, like to continue the conversation about Lady Dimitrescu, who's just blowing
Lady
up the
D,
internet. Yeah, Lady D.
Lady Double D,
And I think
bam.
that's all for that one. I'm gonna keep watching people play it online, and Thomas, if you ever stream, let us know. I'll watch you play because I definitely want to hear you get scared.
Yeah, and I'm gonna not look at all. So there you go.
When do you think you're gonna pick it up? Just like when it gets down to what price?
I'm thinking probably like $30,
30
honestly,
bucks.
because I've heard it was like I paid, like I said in our chat earlier, I paid full price for Resident Evil 7,
Mm-hmm.
the remake of 3, and the remake of 2. Usually I get like $10, probably the $10 off because I'll buy it from Green Man Gaming when they have their pre-order deal, which usually gets you a pretty good price off of it. But those like 7 was a game that was brand new to the series. The foundation of it, the mechanics and everything were brand new. So I was like, that's worth the cost of entry just out of curiosity to see what's going on. The
Right.
2 and 3 remake, those were less than 60. I think they were both $40 or $50. And again, I get that deal through Green Man Gaming for a little bit extra off. But with this one, knowing that it's only like 10 hours, knowing that it's a one and done experience for me because I have no reason to ever replay it. I don't care if there is multiple storylines, anything like that. It doesn't, it's not going to get me at full price. And my curiosity isn't there enough for full price. If this was another mainline kind of entry, like where they went back to their action adventure kind of
Right.
mechanics they had with like 4 or 5, 6, before these, and they brought the old game back together, maybe then I would, because at least those older games, they were like 20 to 25 hours, 'cause with all the back and forth, backtracking that you're doing. Those you had a better reason to play them again. Oh, okay, you beat it this first go around. Now you get to go back through and you play as the opposite character and you see things from their side of the
Right.
story. So it made sense back then. This it doesn't really make sense to me. So but I do, you can't knock their polish. Like the engine looks fucking incredible. Like the
Absolutely.
graphics are beautiful. So I mean, it's worth the money. It's not worth $60 for me. I'll pay 40. I think 40 is probably my cap, and it's got to be in a time when there's nothing else out. I just paid 50 for Days Gone, the
Yeah.
pre-order for that. And, that's a game that's been out on PlayStation forever. But I was like, yeah, they're coming to PC. They're doing, they're bringing something new. Let me support them. I'll pay full, it's $10 cheaper than it was on PS5 and PS4. So I'm like, yeah, that's an easy buy because I know how much gameplay you get out of that game. That's a 20 to 30 plus hour game. And
Right.
yeah, so it's kind of hard. But if this was a drought, they probably would have got me if there was a drought right now. But there's a lot of stuff on the horizons,
Yeah, there's
as
a
we'll
lot of
talk
stuff
about
coming around
later.
the corner, and especially with summer games, and Nintendo's been holding their hand very close to their chest. So I'm sure they're about to just everybody is ready for this summer gaming event, whether it's
Yeah.
E3 or summer games. I think Gamescom went back to being virtual, if I read that correctly earlier today.
Hmm.
So there's a lot out there. There's a lot of distractions, and I think even if I was in a gaming drought right now and I had a lot of time on my hands, I don't know if I would pick this one up. Not because it's not good or anything. It's just the I don't know. Really it's the price. It's the price per value, I guess. The dollar per gameplay hour. The ratio is just not where it should be. I feel like if they went through all this effort to make a story that's this polished and a game that's this polished, even down to a technical stance, it seems pretty polished from what I've seen of it so far. Uh, just make the story longer. Like it's like don't stretch the same story. Just make the story more intriguing. Whenever I hear about these games that only have like 12-hour narratives, I worry that either A, the gameplay is cut back so significantly that you're watching cutscenes most of the time, or B, that it's just a very short story, which sometimes it's a mixture of both. And I don't really like to get behind those too well until they're down at a decent price point. Let's
No
see.
disagreement here.
Yep. All right, let's move right along. Steve, I'm gonna let you take this one. So, Epic versus Apple trial reveals the cost of exclusives and free games.
Yes, I mean, pretty much everything that I feel about this is pretty much right there in the headline for the article. But um, what's happening right now? Obviously, if we go back a few months until last year, you'll remember there was this big dispute between Epic and Apple, where Epic has started offering the Fortnite bucks outside of the App Store for the mobile, for the mobile device.
Mm-hmm.
The way they did that was by just linking to the Epic Store to buy to buy the Fortnite books, whatever the hell they're called.
Right.
Which caused a big disagreement with Apple because they want all those type of transactions coming through their storefront. That way they get a cut of the profits, blah 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 blah. Anyway, they're in court right now, and as part of their legal proceedings, one of the pieces of evidence that was presented was the amount that Epic has been paying for exclusivity agreements with, with developers, publishers, whatever the case is, to get their product, whether it be a time exclusive or a forever exclusive on on the Epic Store. And probably the one that caught the biggest attention was the Borderlands one, which was
Mm-hmm.
over $130 million that they paid for a year of exclusivity. So this is important for a lot of reasons. And this is kind of we talked about this on a podcast a while back. I want to say one of our very first ones where we were kind of like, yeah, cool. It's great that Epic is going up against Apple. They're fighting this war so that the marketplace is more fair for developers and all that. That's all great, but I just don't think, and this kind of reinforces what I've always said, Epic is not doing this out of genuine
Oh yeah.
wholesomeness. It's not they're not trying to be Robin Hood. They're not doing anything here wholesome at all. They're only trying to fatten their pockets. And the way they're trying to do that is by cutting Apple out of what really is like Apple really does deserve a cut of the proceeds from that, in my opinion. The reason being is the same thing with Steam. Me as a developer now, we're trying to sell, we're on our way to selling products and
You've
such.
turned on us.
And you want to be in as many marketplaces as you can be.
Right.
Just the exposure in that marketplace is going to bring you sales. So for Epic, Fortnite's the most downloaded app, whatever. It's going to be at the top of the App Store listing, which is going to get them even more exposure, more downloads, which again increases the revenue they bring in. So there is a benefit to places like Steam and the way the App Store operates. And maybe the cut needs to be smaller, but to say they don't deserve a cut at all is foolish to me. And this is just as an example. How can people look at Epic as a hero when they're paying hundreds of millions to keep a game locked into their platform? Apple doesn't tell Epic that they can only have Fortnite on iOS and not Android.
Right.
So really who's the bad guy here? They're all bad guys.
Yeah,
They're
they're
all
all they're all
businesses.
looking out for their own personal interests.
Yeah. And I won't even say bad guys because honestly guys, like I've always said this, my views on microtransactions and stuff like this is pretty controversial because I'm not just like the typical gamer that's like, oh no, to hell with them. You can't
Work
because
for
if
it.
they have a business they have to run, and
Right.
some of that requires profitability. Now, what they're paying the executives is fucking outrageous most of the time, but a lot of the like, I was playing Titanfall 2. That's a 10-year-old game. They're still supporting it, and the only thing they ask is like, "Oh, here's a couple paint kits you could buy for $5." But people flip the fuck out over that all the time. Meanwhile, you have a company like Epic doing this, 146 million just to keep a game locked to a platform for a year. And I'll tell you, they didn't buy me because I didn't go over to Epic to play it. I said, I'll just wait till it comes to Steam. So they're only hurting they're hurting they're only hurting the users. That doesn't benefit any of us when they do something
Yeah,
like
no,
this.
it definitely isn't a benefit to any of their regular player base because uh so I was one of the ones that did pick it up on Epic Game Store whenever it launched, and you could feel the emptiness of matchmaking. Like it took a while. Like I had a buddy who had played it on Xbox. Matchmaking was fast. It was quick and easy to do. The problem that I had though is I would go to matchmake to get into like a team to do bigger boss fights on harder difficulties, and you just sit there for hours waiting. Not hours. Sit there for a long time though, waiting on more people to join your group, and you're just sitting there and sitting there. So this exclusivity, it really does only hurt the players. It
Absolutely.
divided their player base tremendously. I think they did well on sales, if I remember correctly, on Epic's game stores. But had they just been like, "Hey, it's on Steam and it's on Epic Game Stores," go for it. Have fun. It's pick your store. It's system agnostic. Let's go. Just keep on gaming. I think that would have been more beneficial to everybody in the long run.
I agree, 100%. Ringo in chat said, "To be honest, I don't care about microtransactions as long as they aren't pay to win," which is my exact thoughts. To be completely honest, like
Yep.
I can't even remember the last time I saw a pay to win microtransaction. Like I hear about them all the time, like UFOs and fucking ghosts. Like people are always like, "Oh, these pay to win microtransactions," but outside of like World of Tanks and some other shit like that, like it doesn't come up that often in these AAA multiplayer games that we play.
I mean,
Like
it comes up a ton in sports titles though. Like
yeah, but
it is the way in sports titles, like FIFA.
yeah. And, I'm not gonna say those guys aren't gamers, but usually those people that invest that much into the sports title, that's like the only game they play though.
True.
Like, so for them, it's like the conversation you and me have all the time about like value per dollar,
Mm-hmm.
hour per dollar of enjoyment. So for them, like, oh, I paid $200 for on 2K whatever 21 this year, but that's the only game I play. Me and my friends have an online franchise, so if you can justify it through something like that, nah, it's a little trickier with sports. Like in Call of Duty, absolutely, fucking burn them down. There's a, burn them to the ground if they were to introduce some stuff like that. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, the reason why is because it really is what keeps, like, that's what these executives and the stock investors and everything they look at as like, hey, is the game successful? Like, it's not just about that initial purchase. It's about what's the like retention rate of the customer, which gamers are customers.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Yep.
what's the retention rate of them through the lifetime? Like, oh, what happens when we drop a DLC? Does it spike up? Does it stay the same? Like, oh, it didn't change at all. That game's dying. Bam. Like
Right.
it's not pushing any type of skins or anything. It's probably dying because they can't afford the continued development on something that's not continually making them money. And most games these years, these days, I guess is what I want to say there.
Yep.
Most games these days, I think they probably do maybe like 75% of their sales in that first launch week or something,
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, I mean, yeah, so you got to hit it hard and you got to keep players coming back. And I'll tell you, it is a pain in the ass right now because I'm playing Titanfall 2, I'm playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, and both of those games, they pulled out the ability to buy shit. So you're just stuck with, oh, I have to pay, I have to play for 1,000 hours to unlock the skin, which back in the day before EA got their ass handed to them by gamers, it was, hey, you can pay $5 and you unlock the skin. They just really, and I hate it because I played Battlefront 2 from day one,
Mm-hmm.
and the media really overblew that to such a big deal. And then most gamers, they don't even read, but beyond the headline, and they just
Right.
made it seem like it was this huge microtransaction fest when it really wasn't. Like, I had most of the characters unlocked within like the first weekend of playing the game. Like, it was just play, you know, just play.
Just gotta
That
play.
was all
I,
it
I
was.
think one of their things too was there were a couple of if I'm remembering it correctly, there were a couple of characters, Vader being one of them, that did have a rather steep, uh, I don't know what to call it, a rather steep cost if you were to
Yeah,
not buy into the system.
it's Vader.
Yeah, it's Vader,
He's the
exactly. He's like the
like they
ultimate
and the
Sith.
other thing too is they only had like I want to say like the original cast of characters that they had in the game was maybe like 8 to 10, so because of that they had to block off. It was like Mortal Kombat, like you've got your first 8 unlocked and then
Mm-hmm.
you've got to unlock the rest of them, but they didn't want players to burn through all that content in like a couple weeks. So yeah, you draw it out like, hey, it's going to take you a while to unlock him, but you're going to feel so accomplished when you do. And that was the comment that went wild on Reddit, if you remember that, like, oh, it's to give our
Yeah.
players a sense of accomplishment. But that truly is what it fucking was. Like, it was like when I was playing Anthem, they had this gold suit,
Yep.
and you had to do all of these challenges and things. And that was like, I was burning myself to get to it. And finally, when I did, I was like, wow, like that was a sense of accomplishment because it took me this long to do it. It wasn't something that I could have just spent money on to get. Unfortunately, I would have just spent the money to do it. But because I did go through the whole thing, like, so it serves its purpose. I just think sometimes gamers, they have to, the media manipulates, man. Like gamers aren't exclusive to the media manipulating people. Obviously, it
Yeah.
happens every day, but they really, it's very easy for them to manipulate gamers because it one hot meme takes off and then everyone jumps on that boat like, oh, okay, yep, that's the gospel now, So it's unfortunate because sometimes this stuff has ramifications like that we're seeing today, to be
Yep.
completely honest.
Yep. Because it screws up with the entire landscape of the gaming industry. Something that
Yeah.
could have been just normal for the rest of its life is now like this fringe aspect of the gaming industry that is taboo now. Like, don't even talk about a game having that type of feature because it's horrible.
Yeah, it just seems it needs to be balanced out. Like gamers should be more, don't just blanket say fuck microtransactions, fuck DLC. Like don't just blanket it. Say we want better microtransactions, we want better DLC, like make it worthwhile. Like I want to support these studios that I like. I
Hmm.
do want to support them. I want to support, like I would love to see Titanfall 3 come out sooner because they see a huge surge of revenue in Titanfall 2, because people are buying skins or something. But
Right.
yeah, the only way you're going to get there, you got to support these guys.
Yeah, and
And they
I
tell us
agree.
this directly. I mean, if you listen to our earnest call, they outright say, "Yep, this title's underperforming. We're closing servers down. XYZ date, whatever." So
Yeah, we have it planned to shut down at this point, and no future plans will be made until I guess more people start yelling about why it shut down.
yeah,
And that kind of does bring up the fact that communications between gamers and the game developers always seems to break down at weird moments. And one of the things that I can't seem to wrap my head around is the fact that game developers don't have like their own platforms to openly communicate with their player base. Like a ton use Twitter, and a ton use social media of different varying degrees. I think Twitter is probably the main one that gets used a lot, but it's a whole story of squeaky wheel gets the grease type situation. You could honestly be arguing about 12 different bots are just hounding this one gaming developer account, and they're just like, oh well, the message is loud and clear, they don't want A, B, and C, so then A, B, and C never happens. And then the real gamers get their hand on the game and they're like, well, what the hell happened to A, B, and C? Why is this not here? And it's because no one thought to actually reach out to their player base directly and go, hey, this is what we got. Like, I feel like you introduced me to Elite Dangerous, and they are very much talking to their community. They have set up various different channels of communications. They have a website built for it and everything, and it feels like they are actually listening to the people that are playing that title. And it's
don't
just
tell that to some players.
well, yeah, some players don't like it, but
Yeah.
if you're not part of the majority of the situation that's happening on there, you're just like this niche fringe situation, then you're gonna get pushed aside a little bit. um
But yeah, I'm with you. I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
Like, the feedback matters, and got a little. Damn, we went around the world on that one. But yeah, Epic sucks. Apple's not that much better. We live in a capitalist world, so we're gonna have to get used to it. the best thing to do is not argue about living in the capitalist world, argue about what you're getting out of the capitalist world. So just
Right.
let these developers know, vote with your wallet. When you don't like something,
Absolutely.
don't buy it. When you do like something, buy more of it. Buy one for your friend. I do that all the time. When I like something and I want my friends to try it out, I say, hey, here's one for you. Try it
Yep.
out. People on our Discord server, sometimes, I see them talking about it. I'm like, I'll PM. Hey, I got you a key, because the more player base they get, the more engagement they get, the more likely we are to get sequels and more support for it. I mean, that's really what happened with Anthem. They had that big board meeting, like, hey, what
Mm-hmm.
are we going to do about this game? And I'm sure they saw the numbers for shit. So they said, it's too far gone for us to even revive you know. Unlike Destiny, which sucked forever, but they had the player count there, so they kept going with it. And look at where Destiny is today. It's not as big as it used to be at its peak, but it's
Right.
still got a community that's kind of self-sustaining.
It's still one
Those
of the top
developers,
15 games on Steam for
yeah,
playtimes.
yeah.
Yeah.
They, there's a and that's the cool thing about these indie companies. Like it's harder for the EAs of the world because they have investors they have to satisfy. But
Right.
if you can support a indie developer and they can be successful, they're gonna keep going forever. That's what happened with New Man's Sky. Like indie developer, game sucked at release, but they had enough popularity and money coming in. They said, "Hey, we can keep this going." And we're what? How many years now are we? Wasn't that like a launch? Not a launch title for PS4, but it
It
was
was
pretty
pretty
close to launch,
close.
was
Yeah, it was pretty
yeah, so
close.
we've got to be like 5 years past their release, and
I
they're
think
still
so.
doing content. Not a single bit of paid DLC or microtransactions. So there's a world where if you vote with your wallet, stuff does happen nicely the way you want it to.
Right.
Bam. What do we got next, Archie?
What do we got next? We got Ubisoft's next Division game will be a free to play. It was announced the other day that the Division Heartland will be a free to play title set in the Division universe. They have not stated what kind of free to play, and I thought it'd be interesting to bring up to see what our thoughts on this would be. What is the perfect free to play Division title? Because they've
They
given us
should.
nothing other than this image that's on the screen right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I could guess forever on what I think it's going to be, but what I would like it to be, I've talked to you about State of Decay before, I believe, which is like,
Yes.
you come to a community, it's zombie infested, you get to build up different houses and structures. It's basically like Walking Dead without the Walking Dead IP because you're really doing the same thing they do in the fucking show, which is, hey, I found a place for us to live. Oh man, we've got overtaken by zombies. Next place now. Oh man, someone's backstabbed me. Next place now. So I would like to see them do that, kind of like a sandbox. I don't want to say MMO, but something like that, like a living world where like you
Like
and friends,
Rust
kind of like
almost.
yeah, Rust, Valheim, something like where you
Mm-hmm.
can really impact this little land. And I think with it being free to play, maybe that's what they're kind of going for. The Heartland thing makes me kind of. I think that really refers more to like the maybe to the type of location is that. You're seeing
Yeah, I
these
think
water
that is the
towers, you're
location.
seeing you're seeing the trees and such, what looks like it's more Utah-ish, Montana-ish.
Right.
But you also see the flare in the background, so it seems like we'll still have like kind of that dark
That
zone
dark
type of
zone.
gameplay or something. But I don't think what I want from it and what it's actually going to be are going to be one and the same. What I would want from it is, like I said, like a State of Decay type game made by a AAA studio, because the studios that have done that before are more double A. But yeah, I don't really care for Division anymore. I thought the first one was great. I played the second one and I thought I was going to enjoy it more because of the location, but
Mm-hmm.
I actually enjoyed it a lot less because of the location, to be honest. So
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you. The first one felt really well fleshed out. It was really good. It did eventually turn into, like, when some of the later expansions turned out, everything turned into a bullet sponge, and I think that's kind of what turned me off on that game as well. Uh, the I do like the setting that is kind of proposed here in this image, kind of a more uh rural area, more wooded. There's a ton of trees. There's more trees here than there are buildings that we can see, and there is the flare there, which does give me hope that there is going to be some type of extraction type process like in the dark zone. But in the second one, it felt like we were just doing the same thing over and over again. Like, there were a handful of locations you could go. You ran into other players very infrequently on it. which kind of lessened the stress inside of the game. Like you're playing inside of this dark zone because you're hoping that you can get all this awesome gear, and you might have to fight for it. You might have to fight other players for it, and it just kind of, it felt empty. I think this is one of those games that suffered from not having a very large player base. Everyone kind of dipped
Yeah.
out on like the second expansion for the first one, and then they had kind of an okay fourth expansion, but it was glitched to hell. Like people were cheesing it before it had even launched. Like it was nuts, and
Mm.
they lost their player base, and the second one didn't help with it. Second one
Yeah.
just being a rinse and repeat was like, nah, pass. Ringo
Yeah.
says it feels weird to have a AAA non-battle royale free to play. It would be kind of weird. It's, if they plan on standing out in that crowd, they have to not be a battle royale. And I know that the whole, Warzone is doing great right now. Apex is seeing another revival right now. Fortnite is still doing, good in their numbers. It's hard to not do that, but I mean, they have to read their audience. They have to know their player base. I don't know if people who play the Division are going to be okay with a battle royale title.
I think so I thought Ringo brought up a good point there. I think it is going to be a battle royale. It's going to have I think it's going to be a battle royale with their own flair on it. Like it's still, and the reason why I say that is that the next big wave of genre type games has not come yet. Like there
Right.
hasn't been a new genre for them to jump on yet. So they have to kind of ride that wave. Like yes, you might be number 5 on the list of battle royales, but still being number 5 on a was probably a $1 billion, maybe even trillion at this point,
Right.
depending on how many companies are in, when a multi-billion dollar industry or a multi-billion dollar genre. So I think they are going to make a battle royale game, but I think it's going to have some unique, like, it has some unique division flair to it. To make it kind of, I don't know, to make it stand out from the other ones. Because Ubisoft right now, I think their thing is they don't have a free to play title that I can think of that is bringing in any of that constant microtransaction type.
Ubisoft did, they just released one, didn't they? It was
The
Hyper,
Hyperscape,
yeah,
yeah,
Hyperscape. Yeah. Which,
yeah, and
I
I don't
forgot
think
that
that's
that
been
even
doing well.
existed until this article came out.
Yeah, I don't think that's been doing very well.
No, it has not.
So this is interesting to see. I mean, free to play has a negative connotation sometimes,
It does.
kind of like what Ringo said, we're already making assumptions about what type of game it should be. So it's kind of like whatever they do announce, if it's not that, you might be disappointed. So this one is kind of wait and see for me. Again, I'm not that interested in Division. I'm not that interested in Battle Royale. So this one might not, if it's not kind of more along that survival kind of simulation aspect that I was talking about, then it probably won't get my attention for very much
The
longer than one
whole game
playthrough.
has to be Dark Zone in order for me to play. Like the whole game is Dark Zone. Just the
And that's how
entire
you
game.
get me not to play at all. I just the competitive PvE, sweaty PvE thing doesn't do it for me. Like I can do an arcade PvE game like, Call of Duty,
Mm-hmm.
um Titanfall I've been playing a shit ton of lately, the Star Wars games, but like when it comes to that sweaty division type shit where people are just rolling around you and, dropping tea bags on you and shit, I'm like, it's not for me. It's just not fun. For me
Yeah,
at least.
the I wouldn't, I mean, it was technically PvP in there, but it wasn't like brass out, just you see someone gun them down. Obviously for some people it was, but it was it created a lot of tension because you didn't have to kill anybody. But, that guy over there, he might have a really cool scope you
Yeah.
want. It's
And
like,
that's actually what I disliked about it the most, though, is because
really?
you're never on fair playing ground. So it turns into a or a PvP experience while you're trying to have a PvE experience. You and your buddies are going around, and then there's some guy who, like how we used to be, with Ryan playing with us, like, oh, let's go hunting, and
Yeah, oh
like
yeah.
now you've just become a victim when really all you're trying to do is your 1 hour of gaming for that night. Oh, hey, I'm gonna go play with my friends for a little bit, and
Hey,
then you
I
get ganked,
I will
and
say
all your
that
progress
that
is
Ryan
lost.
and I played the good cops most of the nights. Most of the nights we were good cops and we were hunting the rogues.
Mm,
we're rarely ever flagged as rogues ourselves. I was a lot more than Ryan,
mm,
but together we
mm,
at least Badfish and I,
debatable.
we ruled the dark zone. You know, you don't respect, it's you're getting a gun.
Debatable. But yeah, so but this though, that's the last I was saying. This is a wait and see for me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to know where the hell Skull and Bones is. Like that's the game I'm waiting for. You know, where the hell is that?
What's Skull and Bones?
That was a that was their so you know Black Assassin's Creed Black Flag. You
Mm-hmm.
had the you know the pirate combat and all that. They announced that they were doing a spin-off title with just that naval combat. And my assumption was it was probably going to be a free to play game, but it has been MIA for years at this point.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
vaguely
want to
do
say that
remember
was
that
even
now.
announced before. It might have been announced either right around Sea of Thieves or before Sea of Thieves, but yeah, it
Oh
has not
yeah,
come yet.
I wonder if that came out and they're like, you know what,
Yeah,
we
I thought
missed the train on this one.
they had a good plan though. Like their gameplay back then was even fun. So it
Oh
was
yeah,
high, you know, high fidelity. Whereas Sea of Thieves is more of a cartoony, you know,
right.
artistic kind of art style. But as it is, what do
Yep.
we got next, brother?
Up next, we got Sony sued for restricting its digital game sales to PlayStation Store. Uh, I have a very strong opinion of this. If I'm making something and I am selling it, I get to decide how it's sold. I don't I don't know why anybody else gets a say in that. Like it's not a monopoly. Like if I made a game with my studio and I put it on the PlayStation and I'm still doing physical discs out there, there should be no reason why someone is getting upset with me because I'm not selling digital codes so
Who
that they
sued
can
them?
just
Out of
redo an
curiosity,
entire market.
who are they sued by?
They were sued by, I think it was just some dude, Kukuri. I don't know. Yeah, the reports
Okay,
that the
so
proposed
nobody
suit
important.
Kukuri versus Sony Interactive Entertainment. So this is probably just another thing where it's just like, you know, blowing up because it's a dry news cycle or something. They're like, hey, there's another schmuck trying to sue Sony, so let's just get on that bandwagon.
Yeah, they're. I mean, they're. I'm with you. Like it sucks, but it's again, it's we live in a capitalist society. Don't complain about that. We live in a capitalist society. Complain about what you're getting out of it. So if you feel that strongly about it, go complain to Sony directly. Like,
Yeah,
but you guys obviously don't. You keep buying their games,
yeah,
so it's like,
keep buying
what?
their
Why are they
games.
going to change? You know, but they are notoriously one that does that a little bit more because I noticed that I can't get. You can rarely ever get discounts on console games through like Green Man or any of those
Mm-hmm.
other discount key sites. And I'm talking about the legitimate ones, like not the shitty ones like that G2A or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, you can rarely ever get them from those sites. So I think that's part of it. You know, there was another article that came out maybe last week or the week before that talked about how Xbox sells every console at a loss, and that's the reason why they have to make their money off the,
Yeah.
you know, these digital sales and everything because they're losing money on every single piece of hardware they sell, and they expect to make that revenue back or the profit back by selling their own games and third-party games through their storefronts. You know, so this is kind of one of those frivolous, like, you know, whoever this guy is who's suing them, like, he gets his name in the news. Hopefully, he doesn't get what happens a lot of times, which is where you go in trying to be funny. Oh, I filed a lawsuit against XYZ, and they're like, yeah, well, now I'll pay our legal fees because you lost.
Right.
And something like this, you probably would lose because, just like you just said, it's not a monopoly because there's still access to these games, you know, physically. And Sony will gladly find a way for you to purchase it through their online store. So,
Yeah,
yep.
and I don't even understand where like the gall is in some of these people that are just like, oh, let's just find something to complain about to sue. Because like, and anyone who watches this show knows I'm not a huge fan of Sony. I appreciate what they do when they do it, but I'm not their biggest fan at all. And but just the idea of some schmuck rolling me up in the court and be like, hey, we're upset that you don't sell codes for digital items anymore. I'm like, okay, well, just do, you know, we have an entire storefront. That's a, I'm sure what happened was they did some type of cost analysis at Sony and they're like, hey, listen, there's all these different aftermarket, you know, code sites that are being bought. People are buying codes in foreign countries or whatever. And it becomes a whole thing that has a financial impact on your systems on the back end. Whether or not someone is doing it legitimately, you still have to have those systems in the back to support, you know, multilingual codes, different regions for different of the same title, having multiple different codes. There's the whole it's not alive until Walmart boops it and you paid for it thing. And uh a lot of times how it was dealt with in the beginning was it didn't matter what it said on the card. I could buy a card for, a Halo 3, digital code, and I scratch it off and I put it in the Xbox, and it's just a dollar amount. Like it didn't actually have Halo 3 tied to it at all, because it's not an easy thing to do, and it does have a financial impact. So I'm sure 2 years ago when they pulled it, they were like, hey, listen, we can just exit that whole market, save ourselves the headache. We have a digital store. Go buy it there if you want it. We'll have sales. They're not like Nintendo's store, which almost never has sales. The PlayStation Network does indeed do routine sales. Sometimes the games are still a little bit more expensive on there than if you went to like the used bin at GameStop. But then we're at that point, we're talking about two completely different, market worlds. You are never going to reuse the same code for a game. Like that would be crazy for anyone to even think that was remotely a possibility.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing probably is that by not having to go through the other stores, they cut out the 30% cut that they're probably given. Like that just right there is easy math. Like, hey, people want these games. We've got enough of a presence now that they're going to come to us for these games. So
Right.
cut out the middleman. We keep all that extra profit for ourselves. So hey, kudos to them. But the answer to your question, do I think that they should have to? No, I think that, like you said, if I'm the publisher or developer of a title, I have no obligation to release it on any storefront that I don't want to. So
Yeah, and Ringo in chat brought it up as well that Valve got sued for a very similar thing. But I mean, they still allow it. It just, I think Valve is just such a huge target in the PC space that everyone's looking for a reason to get a piece of it. So
yeah.
I think this
And I
is probably
mean,
a very
and some
similar
companies they
situation.
actually like it too. Like the whole way that Green Man Gaming works is that they make a deal with the developers before the game even gets on Steam. Like, hey, give us X amount of Steam keys. We're gonna buy them at this cost. In between what you're gonna sell them MSRP
Hmm.
and what we're gonna offer the people we're selling. Obviously, they make a little bit based off the profit, X per key, and it keeps everyone happy. The developer knows, hey, look at how many sales we've already got before the game's even gonna come out. They've got this guaranteed amount over there. So there are some companies that appreciate it, but
Yeah,
PlayStation,
it's
like I
like
said,
having
it's
a
just that
third party
they don't
external
need that.
salesperson.
Yeah, they know everybody's gonna come to them, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
So
Absolutely. I agree. That's all I have on
cool.
this one, though.
Yeah. Hey, no worries. So we're coming up to on the radar. What's on your radar this week?
On my radar, there's been a game called BioMutant that has been out and about by THQ Nordic for quite some time. It's not released. It's just, news has been about it. And actually, I just saw the video today where they uh, go over the customization system that's in here. So the short premise of this is that this is post-apocalyptic. There's an entirely different species has taken over the planet. Humans don't exist anymore, and you just play whatever little. This little intro video is kind of boring. Let me go to PC Gamer's video that they had a little bit before, behind the scenes stuff. So it's open world RPG style. You create your little dude, and yeah, here we go. So you create your little dude. He has different resistances. It's very RPG driven at this point, and you have different classes, different races. Even though all the races just look like crackhead squirrels, just to varying degrees. The different breeds all look like crazy. The same rendition of the same furry animal. But what really caught my eye though is all the customization you can do.
Yeah, Fortnite vibes.
That's
Like
exactly what
this.
I thought whenever I saw the screen. I think it's probably the blue background the most, and the font type, which if that's what they're going for, it's working.
Yeah, it looks
Um,
cool though.
but yeah, like different, just about everything can be attached to anything is the sale pitch that they're going with. So if you have like 4 different rods, you can attach the 4 rods together and throw some nails on it. Now you have a freaking pole arm of some sort. Like it's really kind of cool in my I like customizing like my gear.
Yeah, no, this is
I
cool.
like not, I don't like to min max like that, but I do like to kind of feel like this is my experience in this game. Like I'm not just picking up the same shotgun that everyone else has. I have the shotgun with the oil filter at the end of it to silence it, but I have this bent pipe that's also my scope, and it's just kind of, I don't know, it looks interesting to me. I want to get my hands on it whenever it comes out and see what it's about, see how good the crafting system really is. I do have this fear that it's like one of those things that is almost too good to be true. Like, oh yeah, you can attach everything to anything, and then you get into it, and it turns out there's 24 different types of parts, and type A can't connect the type G and R, and you're like, okay, all right, this is too much. Like I don't want it to be that over complicated type setup. But that's all I have for this one. This is what's on my radar. That's Biomutant. Comes out on the 25th of May of this year. So right around the corner. Yeah, approximately 2 weeks. So what's on your radar, Steve?
Yeah, so for me this week, I put on the radar Boundary, which I think actually probably got announced quite a bit of time ago. But when I was watching the cinematic trailer, this is actual gameplay footage they're showing now. But when I was watching the cinematic trailer, I got a lot of kind of nostalgia for this movie Gravity. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
saw that back in the day.
Yep.
Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. Basically they're out in space. All hell breaks loose. You've got giant space structures breaking apart, all this crazy shit. And watching this, I was like, man, this looks really good. It looks like the same type of hectic gameplay. But not only that, so you've got all the stuff happening around you, this destruction stuff in the background, but then you've also got really, like, you've got these really unique mechanics, the customization, kinda how you were just talking
Oh
about
yeah.
the other game regarding, like, what you can do with the guns and such, like, all that's there in this, so I'm really excited to keep an eye on this one. I'm not a huge PvP person, as I said earlier, but I'll play an arcade game like this where it's, hey, I jump in for a couple rounds, maybe I get a couple kills, maybe I die a ton, who knows, but for, like, 30 minutes or so in between, like, my hardcore simulation games, it's pretty fun to kinda get lost in,
Right.
so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Looking forward to it.
It looks good. If you get on it, let me know, and let me know how it plays out, because the 0G can trip up a lot of people. So I do fear that maybe the player base might be afraid of it. Um,
Yeah.
but
Ringo says he's getting some Tarkov customization vibes there, which I can kind of
a little
see
bit,
the.
yeah.
I think Tarkov definitely probably goes a lot more sweaty and hardcore than this one, but I can definitely see what they're going for, and given the player choice. I'm kind of interested to know just what the hell premises, like what happens to people to end up in space. And you know what, guys, forget about the existential threat of us being out in zero G and out in space. Let's have a gun battle
They just zoom zoom
also
around.
at the same time, But yeah. But yeah, it does look fun as hell. I'm excited to see this one.
It is kind of interesting just watching people in these, because they could have easily have gone with Mass Effect style suits, just very sleek, whatever suits,
Yeah.
but they're like, nah, we're going with what is in space today. Those are
Yeah,
the suits we're going with.
exactly.
I
Yeah, I like
appreciated
it
that.
though. Like I said, I'll keep an eye on this one. Hopefully it's not $60 because I don't want to pay 60
Oh yeah,
bucks for
hopefully
a.
not.
It's definitely not a AAA developer making this, so it's going to be one of those experimental multiplayer kind of games.
Yep.
So, but cool. Well, hey, that's that for that.
That is what is on the radar. We're going to shift gears over to the listener Q&A. Before we get started, if you liked what you watched so far, go ahead and hit a like, subscribe, whatever it is that everyone asks you to do. Just go ahead and give us some help. We're small, we're starting out. We appreciate every little bit of it. Can't do it
This is
without
episode
you
15.
guys. Yeah, this is episode 15. Thank you so much, Ringo. Thanks for tagging along today. Appreciate you being here.
Woo woo.
So let's get into the Q&A. Let me pull up, because we selected some off of the Reddit that Steve posted, and we're going to go over some of those questions. So Steve, I'll ask you first. Let's see, where did the question go? How do you think, this is by Life's Rough for Dogs, how do you think the video game industry can move away from crunch and other unhealthy treatment of developers? This is the police too.
Yep, that's the game that that person wants. If we choose their question for game of the, or I'm sorry, question of the podcast.
Yep.
So I actually responded to this one on Reddit and said that I had a very controversial answer. So I'm glad we picked this one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that goes into this. How can the video game industry move away from crunch and other unhealthy treatment of developers? So the first part about that is, again, I've said this probably 4 times now in the episode, we live in a capitalist society, blah, 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 blah. You gotta vote with your wallet. You gotta I know it's very hard for gamers to do, but when that game comes out that you know got made because it was a fucking shit show behind the scenes, people were working 7-day weeks and doing 80-hour weeks and all that kind of crazy stuff, you guys have to make a united front like they did for, restore the Snyderverse or,
Mm-hmm.
release the Snyder Cut, all that.
The
You gotta make
Sonic
a united
remake.
front and say, hey, we are boycotting this game because of the way you treated these developers, and you got to hope that you and enough people did the same thing, that the developer or that the publisher says, wow, this had a big impact on our sales, we cannot let that happen again. That is really the only way that you're going to drive the change. But I have a second part of this question too,
Go for
or
it.
yeah, I have a second answer to this question. The developers themselves need to sometimes think about what they want to do for a career. So I work in supply chain logistics, and I regularly work 50 to 70-hour weeks. Like, it's not uncommon. I
Mm-hmm.
work my 8 hours in the office, I come home, and then again, from 8 to 10, I'm looking at emails, I'm responding to stuff that's on fire, hey, this didn't show up, that kind of stuff. But I choose to be in this industry. I say, hey, I don't have a passion about it like most people have going into video games, but I
Right.
like my paycheck, so it keeps me working.
I'm
But
passionate about that money.
if I ever got to the point where I did not want, like, I wasn't getting enough out of this, I would leave. I would go find something else to do. And I hate to say that maybe some of these video games guys should do that, but sometimes they should. Like, you can't sit in a boiling pot and just keep complaining that the temperature is too hot. Like, sometimes you got to jump out and move into something else. And it sucks because you have this passion for video game development, but the video game industry is not built for a 8 to 5 job because you've
Right.
got these crunch and you've got these stretch goals and you've got these deadlines for the publisher. So maybe if you want to stay in the industry, you can keep trying to fight the fight and hope that things will change. And maybe one day it will change, but if it's not going to change, it's not going to change without their pockets being impacted. And that's either going to be because all the developers got up and quit and they said, hey, we don't have anybody here to develop anymore, or gamers are going to not buy it, which I think that's less likely for gamers to stop
Right.
or change their buying behavior. And the only other thing I would say there, like, work at an indie studio, like maybe to try something like that, like really do a deep dive into the places where they're interviewing, like, hey, I've heard all about the crunch. I dealt with crunch at this studio. I want to come over here, but only if you can promise me it's not going to be the same type of environment. Something like that is written into my contract that I will never have to work more than 50 hours a week or something like that.
Right.
That's a great question though. What are your thoughts on that?
I think very similar. I think what can happen, and those for those who don't know, Steve and I, we came from the same roughly the same type of logistics backgrounds, and a good chunk of that was in leadership. We had teams of people that were under us that we were responsible for, and that they looked up to us for guidance and everything. And we've seen it time and time again where there are individuals that will just get so caught up in their feelings that they just start despising the place, and that's a very easily transmissible toxicity that occurs, and it just magnifies.
Of our city.
But it's one of those things where like one unhealthy person
Sorry.
can make so many other people feel very similar when before they weren't. And it really just does depend on the situation itself, because sometimes they're that way for legitimate reasons, and other times they're that way because they had this grandiose idea that they were coming into this world that they gotta cite it in chat just to make sure we don't get in trouble. They come into this world that they know is going to be busy, but it has so many different rewards tied to it that it's uh Thomas Thomas is
Sorry,
starting
guys.
karaoke in chat. uh
I'm with you though.
no, you're good. Yeah, it is definitely, but like all questions like this, it's a multifaceted answer. There's no singular answer. It's one big answer on multiple fronts has to happen. I do believe that the leadership, I talk about the big guy that sits in the chair upstairs all the time. That guy needs to come down to the floor and learn who his people are that are making these titles for them. That the reason why they get to own a yacht, these 12, this team of 12 to 20 people, he needs to know them and get to know their development team from all facets of it. There's just so much that can be disconnected, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There can be so many lines of communication that just break down between 3 levels up all the way down to the developer's stance. And a lot of times you hear employees bicker amongst themselves, but no one ever takes it up to the higher up, or the higher up is like, oh, you're just complaining, and then he never takes it to their higher up. So there's definitely breakdowns in communications. The best thing that these executive leaders can do is walk down to the front line and say, hey, word is we're not going to be making these deadlines. Can someone give me a real answer about this? I need real answers. Don't go to the brown noser. Don't go to the guy who's willing to just say yes to everything. Go to the guy who's got complaints. Talk to him. Talk to her. Talk to them. Talk to whoever it is that is trying to be the loudest. Take that feedback, internalize it amongst your team, and then go on. That's really the long and short of it. That's probably the long of it. But it just comes down to communications. Crunch can be fought. It can be fought, but it has to be fought by many people on many fronts.
I agree. Good answer. Thanks for submitting that one. Life's rough for dogs.
Yep. Thank you for that one. Next question up. Graphic versus beauty. This is by Canic 007. Head-on head race between 3D games and classical RPG maker games. Who wins the race in your opinion, and why? Or are they both popular on the same level? With graphic games, I mean heavy games like Monster Hunter, beautiful games, things like Terraria, like very stylized games, ones that you wouldn't really think of graphic fidelity, I guess, is what he's trying to say there.
Yeah,
So
style over fidelity.
So I think in
you
this
go first
one,
on this one.
Yeah, I think on this one, it's neither. Neither single-handedly wins. You can have a game that has a resolution of like 600 by 600, and it still be a great game. You can have a game that looks like, like Monster Hunter World that can just be a crappy title. I think one of my biggest examples that I get flack on all the time is I don't think Red Dead Redemption 2 is a good game. It's just not a good game. It looks amazing, but it's not a good game. Graphics cannot be your end all be all answer for whether or not a game is good. It can look good, but looking good is very it's a very particular feel for you as an individual if that game looks good or not. There's some games that are like indisputably good looking, I guess, but that's not really what what makes the game. Like, yeah, the Monarchia in chat, the story matters most to me, even if it looks amazing. So if you got a game that looks amazing but the story is trash or the controls are trash, then it's a terrible game. It doesn't matter what it looks like. What about you, Steve?
For me, the way the question was worded, I think made it like, he said it had to be a head on head race.
Mm-hmm.
And with that in mind, only with just that in mind, the high fidelity games are always going to win over the super stylistic games, to
Right.
be honest. Like that's just the way it's going to work. The AAA looking games are always going to do better than anything that looks indie or kind of lo-fi. Not to say it's a bad thing. It kind of goes back to that discussion we had earlier where I said, an indie studio will be very happy to make 1 million of sales, whereas the EA needs 100 million or 10 million to stay successful. So they don't always have to be majorly successful. So maybe in the end they actually do win. Maybe they lose commercially, but they win in life because they're happier with what they're able to develop without those those expectations of a high budget AAA title.
Right.
So, love that question though.
I agree. That's a very good question. It's one that comes up frequently, especially around the time when games start pushing that next level of graphic fidelity. So next question up is WTF is this comment says, with Microsoft having switched over to PC and Sony testing the waters, do you think it's a good time for Nintendo to try their mettle? If yes, which games would you like to see and why? I'll take the front up on this one because I know how much you don't care for Nintendo.
Thank you.
I think that there's no need. I think Nintendo has put themselves in a very good spot of they don't have to compete on the PC front. They make their hardware pretty affordable. Sometimes it's a little out of reach at the beginning, but it eventually comes down in price, and the titles do justice for the hardware. It's the good games that we all remember about specific hardware normally are good because of their implementation of that specific hardware. Like this guy goes and continues on with some examples like Skyward Sword using the Wii Motion Plus, and then he also references Super Mario Galaxy, which utilize the Wiimote as well for different functions in the game. I'll tell you right now, Super Mario Galaxy can translate well over to controllers. This 30 whatever anniversary repack they did, it did not, but it can. I have a PC that says it can, and I know it can. So I don't think controls would really be it. I think it's more the need just is not there. I don't think that Nintendo really would even care to enter into the PC realm.
Yeah, I think that if they were to do so, it would be the depth of, well, not the depth of it, but the, this is such a complicated question. I love this question too because it
Mm-hmm.
is a complicated one, and I'm sure it's something Nintendo themselves have thought about. I will just say, even as a user, it would make it easier for me to get their games, but I don't think they need to come to PC. They have such a unique identity that's always tied directly to their hardware. Even when I play like Simu to emulate some of their games, like it just doesn't feel right playing on a mouse and keyboard or playing on a Xbox controller or whatever. Like what I would like, if there was anything that they would do, it would not be to bring the full games over. If like this is a thought I had when I was playing Animal Crossing back in the day. Like, man, I would love a like an Animal Crossing light version, like something maybe just like release a bunch of little what I call like those side screen games, like something I could
Right.
have on my side screen while I'm playing something else that's more in depth, or I'm waiting on a loading screen or something like that. But I don't want to see any of their full games on PC. Like it's so unique and tied to their hardware. I don't think it would feel awkward to me for some reason. I don't know. I don't have the same hang up with Sony or Xbox, but it feels weird with PlayStation or with Nintendo for some reason.
Well, yeah, and it is the specialized controls. Like some things are done in a very specific way, and they were built to be handled that very specific way. So when you try to filter that down into an analog of just keyboard and mouse, or even an Xbox controller, you are going to get that little bit of a loss in the I don't know, the feel of the game, I guess is probably a good way of putting it. Ringo says most Wii games are made for the Wiimote. Yes, just about all of them are made with that. Very few do not take that into consideration, or they stick to the what was it, just like the Wii Classic controller, I think, that you just plugged into the bottom of the Wii, but that was mainly for uh, classic remake games. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a good question. I just don't think that. I guess if I was to answer it, do you think it's a good time for Nintendo to try their metal? No, because there's no reason for them to. This was one of their most profitable years. 2020 was. So they have no reason to even try to extend their influence onto the PC realm. Let's go to the next question.
Our next and last question.
Next and last question. This one is by Those Rip 22. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Those rip.
Those
Those
Rip.
rip.
What form
Douse rip.
Thous Rip. What form of storytelling do you enjoy the most and why? I'll let you take this one, Steve.
Yeah, I thought about this one a lot when I read it back and forth. The two options that I were kind of going with, I was thinking more of like that emergent type of story gameplay, like Elite Dangerous. Like they give you the lore, and you kind of just go out and make your own stuff, and they sprinkle things in here and there. And then I thought about the absolute like other end of that, which is like Red Dead Redemption 2, where there's this huge narrative experience that they're taking on from start to finish. And ultimately, I landed on that. Like I prefer a game that has well, at least if I'm going into it for the storytelling, I want a game like that that has a well thought out narrative from point A to point B, and by the end of the game, like I've been emotionally impacted somehow. Like those are
Right.
really my favorite type of storytelling games. But if you ask me overall what I prefer to play, I would say I prefer those games that have the lore in the background and you kind of build your own story. Just because you get a lot more gameplay out of those. I've played Elite for close to 1,000 hours, and I played Red Dead Redemption for 70 hours. So you can
The
see,
online
even though
mode
there is
or regular?
I'm sorry, the regular. I don't know
Regular.
how much I have in the online. Probably not as many, to be completely honest. The that Red Dead Redemption 2 story was long as hell, dude.
It
Like
was.
I took a week off from work for that game to be released. Not just for the game, but a staycation kind of thing,
Right.
relax myself and everything. And I still didn't beat it by the time my staycation was over. So
Oof.
that was definitely a long game.
Yeah, there was a point in that story where I just like I was like, all right, I think I'm done with this.
Yeah, do not
So
blame me.
form of storytelling, I'm definitely one that while I enjoy emergent gameplay, I like being told of a story. Like I like being able to get into the story. I like it being there. I like feeling like the world that I'm exploring is an active part of this narrative that's being told. Um it's sometimes the setup isn't great, like Monster Hunter World for instance. There's a story there, but who the heck knows it, because most of the time you're just out there slashing monsters in half. So uh and I think the storytelling is something that can push a game over into success. I don't think Destiny 1 would have been as successful if it wasn't for people getting those grimoire cards and trying to piecemeal the story together. And
Yeah.
that was probably the most terrible way you could implement a story across the line. That was absolutely horrible, but the story itself was good. It gave you pieces of lore that you had no idea you were even looking for in the game. You're like, oh, so this is why this is this way. I enjoy the emergent gameplay, but I am more about being inside of an evolving story narrative driven world. I like being able to immerse myself into my character, like Mass Effect, for instance.
I'm with you.
You know,
I'm with you. So we're on the same page there. So out of those four questions, which one do you like the most for question of the week? We have how to reduce crunch in the video game industry, fidelity versus style, should Nintendo come to PC, and what is the best form of storytelling?
hmm, I don't know. Yeah, I think life's rough for dogs. I think his question about crunch is probably the most thought provoking question out of these four that we picked. I
Great.
like it.
So that's the question that we will be using this week, or the question of the week. I'll message him over on Reddit, and he'll get to choose from our 100+ list of games that we have. If you want to get in on the action, you can also submit questions yourself by joining our Discord. The easiest way to get there is by following one of the links in Archie's description there or in chat.
Yep.
We also have a very easy shortened link at bit.ly/MLG chat. MLG is for midlife gaming, and then chat, because that's what we do there. So that's bit.ly/MLG chat.
Yep.
Yep. We'll see you
And
guys again next week. Same time, same place for the same question. Well, not the same questions,
not the
but
same
new
question.
questions.
Different questions. We'll have
Yeah.
different questions.
Yeah. And speaking of questions, Jordan,
uh,
Archie here. Sorry.
yep. It's my
I
turn to
never
be
do that.
roasted.
Yeah. Archie, it is your turn. It's my game, right?
Yeah, your game. You pick the game. So for anyone that doesn't know, this is video game 20 questions where one of us picks a game and the other one has to guess through yes or no questions. Usually we do a little bit of a blurb about it in the beginning to kind of give a little bit of head start, and then the other person has 20 questions to get it right. And the questions remaining countdown is on the screen now. So whenever you're ready,
Perfect.
Steve.
Great. So this game is a 2011 survival horror game developed by a European developed by a European development team, multi-platform. This is, I it's kind of hard to say if this was well received in terms of commercially. Critique wise, this was definitely one of those games that was up there. Like a lot of people were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely taking advantage of a genre that was very hot at the time. I put emphasis on hot there for no reason, just so you don't start thinking it's a volcano game or something. But
There's lava.
this
There's lava everywhere.
yeah, I want to say genre, but not even maybe genre, but like the tone and one of the devices that they use, like plot devices,
Mm-hmm.
themes, whatever, is one that has been abused over and over in gaming every
Is it a
before
zombie
this
game?
game. And that's your first question?
That's my
It
first
is.
question. It is a zombies game.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm gonna with that, I'll leave my brief intro out. That's what you get.
All right. So it's a zombie game, 2011. So this saw release on like 360 and PS3, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it did. Okay. So let's see. European developer. The only one that really comes to mind, is this a Ubisoft title?
It is not an Ubisoft title.
Not an Ubisoft title.
Some people in chat know what it is already.
Already.
I can tell by the questions they're asking. Yeah.
I mean, shot in the dark. This isn't like Left 4 Dead 2, is it?
It is not. No.
No. Okay. Is it Left 4 Dead 1?
It is not.
Okay.
No.
Let's see. So damn, so it's a zombie game, 2011. European developer. Damn, I don't know too many other European ones.
You probably wouldn't know this developer by name either, to be
No?
honest. So that should help you with like kind of spotting where the quality of this one is.
Oh,
Like I don't
okay.
want to call it a cult classic because it did so well.
That's what my question was gonna be, is like, does it have a cult following then?
I would say it does.
It
Like
does.
not cult and like, oh man, it's this little obscure title that only certain
Right.
people know about. Just in that I think it has a diehard player base that has been kind of that love the game and have been hankering for the sequel, which as Tom said in chat, has been in development hell for a while.
Thomas. Uh
Wasn't John
wasn't Lil
like a
John.
character?
I don't know.
I'm taking away 5 questions from George
No, don't do
Archie
it.
from you asking that.
Don't do it. Okay, so
just because you asked that.
So let's see. Was this a solo game? Single player?
It was not. It had a single player
Mode
component, but it also had multiplayer.
Okay. So let's see. So it had multiplayer. Was it specifically like a team of 4 versus zombies type of setup?
Not in the sense that I think that you're thinking of, like Left 4 Dead, like 4 people go out and
Kind
just
of,
fight
yeah.
zombies.
Not like that.
Not like that. Like this had an actual campaign to it.
Actual campaign to it. So it had a narrative storyline, but it was multiplayer.
One thing I will say though, just to be fair,
yeah,
the way the plot plays out, you are a group of 4 people, which is how they kind of allow the 4 people to jump in until
so narratively it's 4
so
people.
if you want to take yeah, so it is a 4-player thing. It's just not 4 players, like it's not 4-player horde zombie multiplayer type combat.
Right.
Like it's definitely a narrative action, type game.
See, and you picked this one knowing full damn well that I didn't play any zombie games around that time.
I think you actually played this one. I think you did. It was one of those games that was kind of impossible not to play because it was very early into the life cycle. So it was when people really, when people really were playing anything they could.
Very early into the 360's life cycle. Man,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Oh
just
wait, I
played.
say very early. I was wrong. 360 was 2005.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So this was like late in the game for the
Yeah,
360. Okay, so follow up question: did it see a release on Xbox One and PS4?
it did.
It did. Was that release a kind of like re-release of the same game, or was it a sequel? Was it a sequel? That's the question. Was it a sequel that got brought over?
Um, Let me look at this because I know the game itself got brought over, and I know there were also sequels, but I don't know if the one that first came over was a. I think it was just one of those step up things. Let me look really quick here. So Xbox One came out what year? 12?
I don't even remember anymore.
13. No, not 13. Yeah, 13. So I think this is just one of those step up games. It wasn't any because there's legitimate sequels for this game.
Right. Okay. So for the game that you picked, there are sequels. Damn, I'm struggling to think of follow up questions other than just to guess random ass
Yeah.
games.
Actually, I could bring this up. So apologies. It was a remastered version was released for Xbox One, PS4, and it has not had a sequel yet. It had a DLC expansion. So let
Oh,
me take that back.
so I had a
And there
DLC
was a
expansion.
yeah. What's kind of confusing about that was that there was a spin-off that was released, but that wasn't the sequel. So
Okay, I feel like I know what game you're talking about, but I can't think of the damn title.
I bet
Um,
you do. Yes, Tom, there was a resort in the game. Where resorts usually at, Jordan? Sorry, I keep doing that.
resorts are at the beach.
Yeah, but it has a lot of beach to it.
Coasts.
You said what?
Coasts have beach.
Oh,
Islands. Oh,
yes,
is it
there you
Dead
go.
Island?
There's a hint for you. There's a hint for you, buddy.
Is
That's
it
the last hint I
is
give
it
you.
Dead Island?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it Dead Island?
It is Dead Island. Good job.
Nice.
Look
I
at
had
that. It
completely.
only took you
It only took
12
me. No,
questions.
I'm knocking down two because you gave me a lot of hits. Um, I had completely forgot about Dead Island.
Yeah, it's a forgettable game. I think what happens a lot of times is that people
I think I
mix Dead
associated
Island
it
with
with
Dying
Left 4
Light,
Dead
and Dying
and
Light
Dying
was
Light. Yeah.
definitely the better of the two games, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
But they were so they're very similar, in a lot of ways. And I want to say Dying Light, like part of the team from Dead Island, went on over to Dying Light or something like that. There's
And
something
Dying Light was
weird about that.
the side title.
It wasn't the side title. So the side title was Escape Dead Island, which was released in
Oh
2014, and that was more of a adventure survival game. So it wasn't as big action adventure. It was like one of those graphic novel type side scrolling type
right.
things. But that one was cool though. Dying Light. Let me look up the history on that really quick while I'm
Yeah.
here,
Give us
because I
give
do
us a
want to know.
rundown on how that game did.
Yeah, actually, I don't see where the DNA came from because it's a completely different studio, not the same publisher. Do. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is. So the development of the game began in early 2012 after the team completed the development of Dead Island, but nowhere on here does it say it's the same. Oh, there it is. Now I see developer. They moved over to a different publisher. So they were with
Gotcha.
Deep Silver for the first game, and then they moved to Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment for Dying Light, which I guess that probably hurt them getting the sequel themselves. That doesn't make any sense why they would have done that to me because they're very similar games,
I
but
mean, that
Dying
was
Light was
around the
definitely
time when
better.
WB Entertainment could not release a PC game to save its life without the game just being unplayable. So,
Oh. Well, hey, that Dying Light was good though in PC. That was
yeah,
where I played it.
yeah, few and far between on Team WB for PC. Like,
Good.
what was the last big title that they actually played a role in on PC? I mean,
Shadow of War was fucking awesome. Like I tried to get you
yeah,
guys to play
okay,
that so much
yep,
or so badly. That
that
was
one
a
was
great
pretty good.
game.
Yeah,
Like really well made, optimized well. Like and that's what I say. Sometimes gamers vote their wallet on the wrong
right,
stuff. Like that game had a very small microtransaction thing in it where you could buy loot boxes that contained the orcs and stuff like that
right.
because the orcs were all randomly generated. So it was like, hey, if you wanted more orcs, you could do that. Otherwise, just play the fucking game.
Yep, just
And
play the
people flipped
game
out
normally.
and it killed the steam behind the game. And a great game just fell into obscurity because people got turned off by something that wasn't really even a big thing. Ringo in chat said his guess for the game was very far off. What was your guess, Ringo? Wondering.
Go ahead and let us know.
Yeah. While you're doing that, so let's talk about what we are playing next week. What are you going to be playing?
Next week, I think I'm going to give the new season of Apex some try, and then I'm going to don't be embarrassed, Ringo. Go ahead and let us know. Go ahead. I'm gonna play some Apex new season, and I'm gonna work on some visual improvements for the channel. Some of you may notice that this is a new layout that I've been struggling on my own to make because I'm not an expert in Photoshop. I've just been learning all this stuff. So if you hadn't said the
We're waiting, Ringo.
Come on, Ringo. We're just waiting on you. We're not turning this off until you give us your answer. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm gonna be working on. Apex. I have been playing in Elite Dangerous, been ranking up with the Empire, so I can get. I need to be like a Duke or something in that rank in order to get the ship that I want, the Imperial Cutter or Clipper or something.
You said Empire, not the Federation?
No, yeah, not the Federation.
Oh,
Empire.
you want that? Oh, I remember Observer. That was a cool game. Yeah.
Oh, that was
Yeah, you want that ugly ass Empire ship?
Listen, I'm going for
the
form
big
over
white
function.
ship, right? It's just big.
No. It's like it looks like a Trident type of situation.
It's big and white though, right?
I mean, it's not like a unmarked white van type like the other ones are.
Okay, we'll talk offline. But yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. That ship's cool. I want to say it's the fastest in game, but it's too big for me.
It's the fastest? Well, that's definitely not why I'm buying it.
Yeah, it's got a huge cargo hold too, if I'm correct. But yeah, we'll talk offline and catch up on that.
So what about you?
For me, yeah, so I got a busy week. So Friday's my daughter's birthday. So we'll be going out to the aquarium, for her birthday. It's probably one of the safest little things to do around here where we live in South Florida. Because no one goes. So that's that's one thing. But then Days Gone comes out on the 18th, I want to say.
I think so.
Either the 18th or the 19th. So that's coming out. So I'll definitely be playing that. And then Elite Dangerous Odyssey update finally comes out on the 19th. So I'm gonna have a very busy week. I'm gonna jump in Elite. The good thing about Elite, like I've always told you, is that it's not one of those games where you feel pressured to play right away. Like I can hop in at any time and catch up to whatever's going on. I'm not missing anything by not being there. The world is still moving.
Right.
So when I get to it, I get to it. But Days Gone, I've wanted to play that ever since it was on PS4. I was waiting for it to come to PS5 with the expectation that I'd be able to just pick up a PS5. But because they're not, my whole thing with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X is that I'm not going to go out of my way to get them until I can walk into a store and pick them up because I'm trading in my old consoles. I buy everything digital, so for me, I'm just trading in my old consoles. That's all I want to do.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna wait, or I'm not gonna buy online until I can walk into GameStop. Here these are. Give me $250. I'll give you $250. I get a new console. I'm happy. So that's what I'm waiting on. But yeah, that's gonna be my week next week. Days Gone and Elite. Mass Effect Legendary Edition comes out Friday. That's where I'll be. Is it the Monarchy?
The Monarchy,
right?
Yep.
Yep. So that's where they'll be. Mass Effect is great. I want to play that one, but I need to do the same thing I did for Red Dead for Mass Effect, like take a full week off so I could just go through. My problem with it though is I'm afraid to kind of play it again because I don't remember every decision I made. And 2 specifically, I remember 2 was like the one where you had to do all your loyalty missions and everything perfectly in order for everybody to live. So I don't know if I can play through it again. I don't want to see stuff that I don't want to see. I'm just going to remember it as I remember.
No, in two, it wasn't so much that you had to do everything perfectly. You just had to get to their friendly quest.
Yeah, but there was decisions you had to make that still would end in people like hating you and shit like that.
Yeah, but
I don't remember all that stuff. Yeah, so
arguably I'll say that the impact that 2 has on 3 is so minimal. Like I hate the fact that they just did the best one out of the series dirty like that. They're like, okay, every decision you made in 2
yeah. It's bad wrap-up syndrome. From what I've heard, like all these games that have these huge overarching like story things, like it's hard to wrap them up, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. One last question there from chat. Ringo said, "Isn't Elite getting a massive update where you can walk around on planets or something?" Yes, that is the Odyssey update that's coming out on the 19th. So me
The
and Archie both
19th.
have played a little bit of the alpha, enjoyed it, and are looking forward to the official release. But you'll be able to walk on planets. They add a lot of gameplay loops now. I mean, you have these it's going to get repetitive for some people just because of how much they play Elite. But if you play
Mm-hmm.
like me, which is maybe a few hours a week, you'll have fun. But
Yeah.
every settlement you go to now will have a bunch of different missions available. So you'll be able to do combat type stuff. You'll be able to do stealth missions. Some of the missions are as easy as, hey, go to this place and turn all the power on. Some of them are, hey, go to this place and sabotage all the power.
Right.
Sometimes you're taking download. So there's a mix of it's basically just like the overall game, and they brought it down to the foot level now where you have piracy type content, you've got the pacifist type stuff you do, you've got the ecological, you've got the explorers. So they've just taken it. I think I like the way that they've done development. Me and Archie have talked about this on other episodes, but Elite gets compared to Star Citizen the most, and what Elite does is they wait until they have a big update to drop, and they drop everything, and it works. It's polished. Like it may not be as in depth as you think you may want, but it always works. It's polished. Whereas Star Citizen, they drop in a ton of stuff every week, every month, whatever, and it doesn't work. Like Star Citizen is to the point now where I actually enjoy it a little more on the fidelity side. Like I think it looks better, and I think the flying and the shooting is a little more engaging sometimes. But I'll I'll jump in for an I'll jump in. Hey, I'm gonna play, and they've got like Archie. You've never played Star Citizen, but like you'll get
Right.
into one of the worlds. Like say I'm at this one planet, and I'll spawn in at a hotel because that was the last place I fell asleep at. I've got to go take the elevator downstairs to the hotel lobby. Then I've got to take a tram from the hotel lobby to the starbase. And this tram might literally, I'm not joking, Archie, the tram could be 10 to 15 minutes long of a ride where you're just
Oh.
sitting there. Then you get to a place and okay, now I've got to take an elevator from the tram station over to the starport. Okay, great. 30 minutes in, I'm still nowhere near my ship. I finally get to my ship, and what? I flip the power switch, I'm ready to fly. Nothing works.
Oh man.
Time to restart, and shit like that happens to me all the time, and because of that I can't even recommend Star Citizen anymore right now. Like if people ask me about it, I'll say play Elite and catch up with Star Citizen in like a
They're
month or
getting a
two.
new update too, aren't they? Soon, like something
Oh, they
like
get a
caves or something.
yeah, they get updates all the time, and that cave stuff is actually in right now, and it works for some people. It's just the inconsistency of it working is why I can't play it right now. I just don't, with everything I've got going on, when I sit down at my computer and I want to play something, it's got to work. If it's going to take all this troubleshooting and stuff, it takes the fun out of it. And like I said, because Star Citizen, that's the one thing they have. It is super immersive, and when it gets polished and it works fine, like that is going to be a great experience. Like, oh man, I've got one of the things you could do actually to give them credit, you can take a ship and you can fall asleep in your ship now. So if you've got a ship that's got a bed in it or something like that, you can log out via your bed, and when you log back in, you'll be in the ship already. So that is cool. You can do stuff like that, but still, it's the times where you log in and you can't get something done because of a stupid bug that it makes it hard for me to recommend at this exact moment. But
Yeah,
Elite,
I understand.
you can play yeah, but you saw, I mean, it took you what was your learning curve for Elite? Maybe a day? F that?
Yeah, not even. I mean, I do have experience with previous, flight games, but
Yeah.
all I had to do was just mess around with my controls to get them more comfortable for me, and then just, burn out. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's make
So
that
yeah.
space money.
You got a comment in chat. Tom said he likes your Destiny shirt. Was that the year one for Triumph shirt or
This is the Triumph shirt for 2020.
20? Oh, I didn't
Yep.
even know you had it. Good
Yep.
for you.
I think this is the one I sent in the group chat. Yeah. I ordered it forever ago and it came in forever later because
Hey, buddy.
because there's only so many. For those who don't know, there's like a couple of different things that you have to earn, which I mean, you just play the game normally. I don't feel like I went too grindy other than the raids sometimes. But then yeah, you get a little notification in your email like, hey, Bungie says you can order this shirt now that used to be, and how they do it is on their store. The shirt can be bought for like $7,770 or something, $77.
And then give
But
it to
if you
charity.
have this discount code, now the shirt's only like 35. Plus, if you want it
Oh.
personalized, which I think I did. Yeah, I had it personalized with my Steam gamer tag on there, and
But could somebody really buy it though if they wanted to?
I think they could. Uh, I I've never been brave enough to go through the process and see it in full. actually charged me almost $8,000. Thanks, JCow. And it was actually my first year back into the Destiny world is whenever I picked this one up. So I was like, you know, it's been a good year of progress in Destiny. I wanted to support them because I felt like they were making some pretty good decisions at the time. We get Vault of Glass, Steve. We get Vault of Glass back here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm excited about that. You know that already.
Absolutely. So we gotta hook up on that. I think that's all we got for the show today, though, Steve. You got anything else you wanna hit up the chat with?
I know. I was checking some last minute comments here and I didn't see anything. So hey, all I can say is I hope everyone has a great week. If you're not a part of our Discord already, you should be. We're playing Flight Sim, Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, and we talk a lot about other games too. We've got a channel set up for just general chat if you guys want to chat about that. A couple game rooms set up where we're playing multiplayer stuff. If you're looking to play with me anytime soon, Titanfall 2 is a good way to get me hooked up. Elite Dangerous, those are probably the two things that I'll be up for multiplayer in the next couple of weeks or so.
And I'm always on everything, so I can normally be found across whatever. All right, well, thanks everybody so much. Peace out. Recording, if you showed up late, recording will be up on YouTube. This guy Archie on YouTube, and Steve is also, he's a much more bigger YouTuber than I am. Go check him out on Media Hype Train and all of his shenanigans that he gets into.
I haven't uploaded in like a month, but yeah, go ahead.
Check it out. All right, we'll see y'all later. We'll be back here again next Monday, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Eastern. Love y'all. Be safe. Peace out.